Oppenheimer is heading into Sunday's Oscars with 13 nominations, the most of any movie this year. The film from director Christopher Nolan, a portrayal of the father of the atomic bomb, J. Robert Oppenheimer.
The world will remember this day.
Our work here will ensure a peace mankind has never seen. Until somebody builds a bigger bomb.
And we should note that Oppenheimer is distributed by Universal Pictures, which is owned by Comcast, our parent company. Ahead of Sunday's ceremony, the Nuclear Threat Initiative launched a campaign this week called Make Nukes History to draw attention to the real and ongoing threat of nuclear weapons. And joining me now, I'm so happy to have the co-chair and CEO of the Nuclear Threat Initiative, former U.S. Secretary of Energy, Ernest Moniz. Mr. Secretary, thank you very much. I was very struck. You and former California Governor Jerry Brown co-authored an op-ed, a column in the LA Times, saying that no matter who lands a golden statuette on March 10th, we will all wake up on March 11th just one terrible miscalculation, accident, or deliberate act of madness away from civilization ending nuclear destruction. Not since the height of the Cold War has the threat of nuclear weapons been so ominous. So obviously Vladimir Putin has only renewed that fear, the nuclear fear that many in Europe were feeling. And certainly after Chernivtsi, we saw, for decades, the disaster in Belarus and, the westerly winds that destroyed so much. But the power of these weapons, why is it so ominous now? What do we need to learn from Oppenheimer besides the entertainment of a great movie?
It's a great movie, absolutely. And the 13 Academy Awards nominations that you mentioned have a certain symmetry with the fact that we still have 13,000 nuclear weapons in the world, which, of course, is at the root of the very, very deep concern. I think the movie was very effective in bringing out Oppenheimer's warnings, especially towards the end of the movie, that we could easily be getting into arms races. We could be seeing the power of these weapons dramatically increase. And in fact, today we have weapons. Part of those 13,000 stockpile are weapons with 80 times the power of those that were developed in World War II. And of course, as you alluded, we have seen not only the 13,000 weapons, we're seeing some directions that are frankly opposite to what we would like. We have China certainly developing, growing its arsenal. We have North Korea adding to its weaponry. We have Iran perhaps inching closer, at least, to that possibility. So I think we are just being quite accurate in saying that we have never since the height of the Cold War have we been feeling so uncertain about the nuclear weapons, so vulnerable to accidents and miscalculations. And the movie should remind everyone that we are still living in dangerous times, and that it's up to us to garner, to get the political will to start making the nuclear weapons history the same way the Oppenheimer film addresses the history of World War II.
And in fact, it's a cautionary tale. J. Robert Oppenheimer himself, he never thought that anyone would actually, that people would take the decision when he first started it. And then he warned President Truman, and Truman rejected his warning in the Oval Office and said he didn't want to even see him again because he had those concerns, moral concerns. I think one of the most striking things in the movie, and it's one that I found to be terribly emotional, is when the first test worked and they were all cheering there in Los Alamos. And I found that I was so horrified, having covered the Cold War and covered your initiative and since, that's what really upset me. It actually brought me to tears to watch them cheering the success of that first bomb.
There's no question, Andrea, the incredible tension there was between what was very clearly an amazing technical accomplishment in designing and building those weapons in such a short period, really over a period of, say, 3 years. And I might add, the film focusing on Oppenheimer and the Manhattan Project quite properly. We should also remember that there were other technically amazing feats done in other places, like Oak Ridge, like in Washington State, in terms of making the materials for the nuclear weapons. But of course, Oppenheimer and others understood at the same time that they were faced with enormous technical challenge, but enormous moral as well, because this was going into a whole new world of destructiveness, and everyone suffered, really.